Good evening, everybody. Keith here. I'm going to wait a few and let some people get on before I get started here, actually. This is going to be a little bit longer video here. I've noticed a lot lately that people want to come on to a lot of my posts and make comments as if though I don't know what I'm talking about. And so I want to make some clarifications for people and help people understand your story is not my story. Your assumptions are not my assumptions. Your life is not my life. They are two different things. And the way we look at the information in our world is two different things. And so what I want to talk to people about today is my walk and the way I talk. And the information that I put out there because I've done my research. The things that people have a problem with seem to be my own actions and their belief in what my own actions are. And so before we get started, I want everybody to get a pen and paper and write my name down, and feel free to look me up on the public record here in Waterloo, Iowa. My name in its full, Keith, and that's Keith, Orland, Orland, and then of course the last name is Little, Little. Now when you people do this public record search on me, you're going to find that I have 11 citations sitting on the public record that were adjudicated. They did find the person guilty. They did assess the person fines. But the problem is the enforcement. Because, see, they want to enforce the idea, the concept, which I no longer believe because I have facts that say otherwise. And they're trying to enforce the concept in the collection of these fines and serving of the penalties that they belong to myself. And like I said, I know that for a fact not to be true any longer. So I assert that. How do I assert that? Well, I asserted it right from the start by these 11 citations, all of which I signed UCC 1-308, and then never went to court. Okay? Now, when they want a person to step up and pay those fines, and they don't have me as the one that was elected or appointed as a corporate officer or a public official, then they have no enforcement. Period. Now I want you to understand, a corporate officer and a public official, both, no matter whether you're just a corporate officer or just a public official or both, you have to take an oath. I have never once taken an oath. Never once. And I doubt that hardly any of you have ever taken an oath. Okay? This is the importance of the tax code and the definitions therein, as well as all the other U.S. codes. You have to look at those terms and find out what they're looking for. So when they're looking for a corporate officer or a public official to administrate the affairs of the person, then there must be an oath with it. That oath must also include a bond, and that bond must be attached to the oath. Just like a contract loan from a bank, when they draw up the promissory note, that promissory note is supposed to be attached to the contract, and it is to remain with the contract in order for it to be valid. Once they do not, or when they do not attach it to that contract, it never becomes valid. So unless they attach it to the contract so that you can visually inspect it yourself as per your right, then there is no valid contract. There is no valid loan. The promissory note they put out was fraud. Now I'm going to start at the very beginning of all of this fraud because everybody knows I speak a lot about the Social Security account, the birth certificate, and all that. And the whole fraud starts with one word. One word. And if you look on the hospital statement of live birth, which is the origin of both the certificate of live birth and the birth certificate, you will see they use the word informant twice. The doctor is an informant and the mother is an informant. And the word informant specifically refers to informing the proper authority that a crime has been committed. If the hospital statement of live birth is a report that a crime has been committed because you've been born, does that sound right? Nope. Where's the crime? Where's the crime? I'll tell you the crime. The hospital considers it a contract. Let's read the 8 elements of a contract. Parts of a lawful, valid contract. First, the parties should be competent to contract. The first step in being able to be competent to contract is you have to be able to have a business registered in your name. Now, if you don't have a business registered in your name and you're filling contracts, then that proves that you're incompetent to begin with. Second, free and genuine consent. You have to be willing to go forward with the agreements. A contract is a set of agreements. Third, there must be full disclosure, and that coincides both with the first and second parts of a lawful contract. Is not only do you have to have a business registered, but you have to be able to think about the agreements you're making in a free and genuine consent, in knowing what's being said, in knowing the letter marks, word marks, terms, and conditions that are set upon all of the agreements. Fourth, there must be valuable consideration from both parties. Equal consideration. And this is what bears through to the end of the contract, when all parties are given equal compensation, are equal beneficiaries, or equally suffer any detriment. Equality follows through from the beginning to the end. If anything during a contract is detrimental to one party or the other, the contract can be voided for that detriment. Period. And it doesn't have to be the cause of either party. It could be a God-given detriment and therefore void. Understand this stuff, people. And then we've got 5, which is the certainty of terms. And this is what I was just talking about. You have to understand the letter marks, the word marks, the terms and conditions. You have to be competent to understand all the certainty of the terms. You have to have clarification. 6 is the meeting of the minds, which is, again, kind of, in my opinion, just kind of redundant to the certainty of the terms. You have to have a certainty between the two parties. They have to be understood. And that's the meeting of the minds. But they list it as a separate element. Why, I don't know. Then, the 7th element is autographs and signatures. You have to have them from both parties. And I'm going to tell you again, when it comes to a signature, we hear this thing about people that are deaf mutes or illiterate and can't spell or read or write. So they're allowed to just use a mark. Now, when we talk about equality of law and equality of all matters, when you consider a mark is a valid showing of consent or agreement, then we have to understand that that's all we have to do. We don't have to be illiterate in order to use a mark. That's just what is used for people that are illiterate or deaf mutes. Now, when it comes to the signature, I want everybody to understand. A signature is written in cursive, and that is a foreign language. By signing even your own handwritten document, you're putting two languages on one document. And in these courts, it's supposed to be one-to-one communication, and you're only supposed to use one language. Period. So, my assertion here is to use autographs. Block English lettering. And I don't care if you use just your first name like I do, which I call my calling. It's my calling. It's what my mom and dad called me when I was born. They didn't give me a name. They gave me a calling. And then in the construction of grammatics, they added the second calling, which is, my first calling is my spirit, and that's the Keith. And then when they really got pissed at me, if they really wanted to show their authority, they'd call me Keith Orland and call me both by spirit and body. And then the last name is a last name in accordance to commerce. Otherwise, it's a family name. And it could be used first or in the last positions. Of the family Little comes now Keith. Keith of the family Little, or comes now Keith of the family Little. So understand this stuff. This is all about construction of grammar and everything. Then we have the very last one. The eighth part of a contract, a valid and lawful contract, is privity of contract. Privity is privacy. Okay? Privity means just between the two parties. No third parties allowed. Understand this stuff, people. And that's basics of your lawful contracts. Now, I've got here, let me show you. Now, like I said, this is going to be a little bit longer video, so be prepared. But I've got a nice binder here. And you'll see it's full of papers. I've got some receipts and stuff from certified return receipts from mailings that I sent in my case. Various receipt stubs for printing and stuff like that. Got to keep all that stuff. Then I've got a list here. This binder I just showed you, this is my transcripts. These are my transcripts, and it's 259 pages long. That's just for the court transcripts. And then I've got transcripts for the sentencing and transcripts of a hearing that was held after my sentencing when I filed a mandamus, and they had the audacity to try it in the same local court. Though it was later denied, I couldn't believe their audacity to try my mandamus in their court when it was specifically addressed to the Supreme Court. They will do everything they can to try to keep it in their jurisdiction. So anyway, then I've got my sentencing order, and then just a bunch of notes of pages of notes and stuff. Actually, no, this is the Constitution. I printed up the Constitution. It's the Constitution of the United States of America. I strongly suggest everybody print one up and learn it. So there's those. And then, in regards to my transcripts, I went through page by page and made notes, and I made many notes. And you'll see here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got 8 pages total of notes that I made just on my transcripts. And I started out with my questioning of jurisdiction. And in my notes here I found 16 spots where I questioned jurisdiction before they finally even made any attempt to answer the question of jurisdiction, and then failed to answer it appropriately enough to cover the jurisdiction elements that are required. They only address subject matter and territorial jurisdiction without addressing the personal jurisdiction. Now, when it comes to my case, like I've told many people, I stood in that court and I rebutted their appointment of a state-appointed attorney, representative, whatever. I flat out told him I didn't care who he was, how good the state tried to profess that he was. He wasn't my attorney. I didn't assign him. I didn't hire him. And if he said any word, if he said a single word, I would hold him liable. It's a very strong word. They don't like liable. And believe you me, he never said a word. And you can see, I'll show anybody my transcripts if you want to come look at them. I'm not going to copy them. That's 259 pages plus. You want to pay for the copies? I'll send you a copy. I'll send you a copy with all my notes on them. But you can see in the transcripts, he didn't say one word. So then when we look at the transcripts here, I'm going to start out with the protection order because that's one of the first things we discussed in the case. And it starts out, proceedings commenced at 3 p.m. December 5th. We're on the record, and this is State of Iowa versus Keith O. Little. Case number AGCR 215189. This case is scheduled for jury trial tomorrow. Mr. Little is personally present. Personally present. That's a lie. How could I be personally present? I didn't have a birth certificate on me. I didn't even have a Social Security card on me, and I was never registered to do business anywhere in America or the world. So how could I have a personal capacity? How could I be there in personally present? He's not represented by counsel. No, I wasn't represented by an attorney. I wasn't represented by a lawyer. But thanks to you people, I had plenty of counsel. The state is represented by Michelle Wagner. It says Mr. Little earlier asked the reason for the protective order that was entered last Friday. And if you look back in my post, you'll see I did a little video on that protection order. And what I did was I filed a 3949A IRS form denoting that there's possible fraud activity on the court case. Now this attorney, this district attorney, said that I claimed that she committed fraud. I never said any such thing. I said that she was in charge of the case. I listed her as the supposed borrower, and I made a comment that I believed that there was possible fraud being committed. I didn't state that I had any proof. I didn't state that it was a fact. I didn't state that she was committing fraud. I said I believed that there is possibility that fraud was being committed. So understand the words that you use and understand the words that they use against you, because when she said that I accused her of fraud, she lied. She knows these words as well as I do. And she blatantly lied. But that's okay. Because like I explained to people, see, the thing about protection orders, they work both ways. So if you don't want me confronting you, don't you dare confront me in violation of that protection order. So, let's see here. And again, like I said, if you want to send money to have me copy this off and send it to you, that's fine. I'd be glad to. You'll see where I've made all kinds of notes in here. Let's see here. Here's a good one. Defendant. And of course, they always list you as defendant. They're not going to list you by name or by your calling. It says, Can I clarify that the state is saying that they have a mens rea and reus actus, clarifying that there is a corpus delicti, denoting that there was actually a crime committed. Now understand, they pulled me over for invalid plates and registration, called it a criminal offense, and then charged me with possession of marijuana with subsequent offenses. You can't pull somebody over for invalid plates and then charge them with something else and say that the invalid plates is a subsequent charge. Okay? Neither one of those matters, though, because they both fall under what they call criminal acts. They both fall under crime, even though traffic violations are unarrestable. So they are saying that I committed a crime, but yet they're denoting that there was actually, in the response, it says, in response, sir, those are not issues that the state needs to address in order to file charges against you in order to proceed to trial. See, when you're accused of a crime, it's one thing. When you're charged with breach of contract, it's a different thing. This is all stuff I've learned throughout my research here, and it's all very simple once you get experience with it. And I'm talking about real internal experience, because like I said, you can look me up on the public record, and there's 11 citations that sit there now. But if you think those are the only 11 citations I've ever gotten in my life, you're wrong. I've got a criminal record this thick. So I've been in and out of these courts many times, and I never really cared much about it. I got mad about it. I was upset about it. But like most Americans, I just went right back to work, earned the money, and paid it. I ain't doing it no more. It's all fraud. Every last bit of it is fraud. Money? It's fraud. Pure and simple. Even the concept of money itself is fraud in regards to contracts. Money requires a third party. And then when you look at the terms of money, you know, if you've got your own private estate, you can draw up what's called certificates of deposit. They are backed instruments with your own property. You use your own property in trust as the backing for your own money. When you start using somebody else's money, you're involving a third party, and that's a void contract. Understand this stuff. Then he says, on the same day, we have a demand for valid, subscribed oath of office and proof of bond. And for the record, Mr. Little, I'll advise you that the bonds for district associate judges, I'm sorry, oaths for district associate judges are filed with the Secretary of State in Des Moines. And I'm not required to provide you with a copy of the oath. But that's where you can obtain one. He is required to offer or to give me a copy of his oath. He's supposed to have a copy of his oath at the place of his business. Here's a good one. Defendant, I'm specifically asking what the state's definitions are, not some dictionaries. Guess what their response was? Court. And this is the court. This isn't the prosecutor. This is the court answering. I wish I'd have known all this stuff back then. I'd have told that judge to shut the fuck up. But anyway, he goes on and says, well, right now the state is not required to provide those definitions. We also have a supplement that was filed. It's called Supplement for Pretrial Hearing. Again, I believe that is a statement of position, does not require a ruling. Really? Really? Well, gee, how do we come down to, what was it here in this terms of contract? Remember, we're in a civil venue here. Certainty of terms? These people want to mess with me if I ever bring a claim. They're screwed. They're screwed. And I'll let you know, I'm not going to go through this whole thing. But again, like I said, I'll show those that didn't see it earlier. This is my transcripts. Every word. And you'll see in there I made plenty of notes. Here's a good one. This is Officer Chase. Cross-examination starts out, and by the defendant, I ask him, Officer Chase, upon arrival on the scene, did you use your emergency lights? I turned them off once I got there, on the way there, but did you use them? Thank you. In your training or employment, have you come to believe that there is such a thing as sovereign citizen? Yes. Are you aware that a sovereign citizen is a contradictory statement? I don't know anything about sovereign citizens. Excuse me. Have you come to believe that there is such a thing as a sovereign citizen? Yes. I don't know anything about sovereign citizens. The hell is this idiot talking about? He just said yes. I just know there's people that claim they're sovereign citizens. Question. As well, there are people that claim they are sovereign citizens. Where did you get your definition of sovereign citizen? Was it in your training? Miss Wagner. Objection. Relevance. Was it in your training or was it through a definition? Court. Overruled. You may answer. We've had training about sovereign citizens. Excuse me, didn't you just tell me I don't know anything about sovereign citizens? These people are dumbasses. And they get on the stand. And I'll agree, when I was the idiot standing in front of that courtroom, I didn't know enough. But guarantee you now, I can put all of these books up. I can put all my research away. I don't have any documents. I don't file documents. It's right here and right here. Truth be known, all you got to do is let a babbler babble. So when you ask him about sovereign citizen, yes. Then you ask him again, he says, well, I don't know anything about sovereign citizen. Then you ask him if he's trained. Oh, yeah. You make them look like fools. That's all you got to do. Point out the simple truth. Today I can do it much better than I did in this trial. And when it comes to people that want to get on my posts and question me and my walk and put out their assumptions that I'm using a Social Security card or depending upon the birth certificate or getting food stamps or medical, fuck it all. I don't have none of it. The only thing I have is a driver's license that they told me I had to turn in. I am keeping that motherfucker for prima facie evidence of their fraud. You cannot demand that I hand over evidence. It's my private evidence now. I'll hold it against you, and I'll hold it against you until the next time you want to drag me into your fucking courts. And believe you me, people, I assure you, they still watch my page. Hi, Michelle. you fucking cunt. You fucking bitch. Hey, guess what, you fucking communist? Enjoy some more. But like I said, that protection order works both ways. Don't you dare try to drag me into your fucking courts again. Without a judicial officer present. So when it comes to people wanting to question me and my walk, I speak the truth. And the information I post because I researched it. So when you go back through my page here and you're looking and you find the video where I talk about full faith and credit of homemade postage stamps, you can believe it ain't no fiction. It works. It's proven. And people that watched that video and then followed up and did it themselves have further proof that you can make your own homemade stamps. And it works. Ask them. That's your full faith and credit clause of Article 4, Section 1. Constitution of the United States of America. Full faith and credit. HJR 192, Public Law 7310. Your offset and discharge. Your Social Security account. That's not your Social Security account. That's the Social Security account of the person that's supposed to be registered to do business. So while you're out there being employed and filling out these applications as an employee, the IRS code explains what an employee is. An employee is a public official or corporate officer. So by filling out that application, you've applied to become a corporate officer, but you've not taken an oath. You've not been elected. You've not been appointed. You've not taken an oath. Come on. Understand this stuff, people. This isn't no first grade stuff. It's not no 24th grade stuff either. It's simple if you just take the time to educate yourself so you can pass it on to your children. I beg all of you people out there that have children that are in high school, that are taking driver's ed, to write up some questions about your right to travel, to ask the instructor. Not for the instructor's purpose, not for any intent to do with the instructor, but for the rest of the students in the class that are listening. So, Mr. Instructor, while I understand that it's a privilege to drive and you're required to have a driver's license in order to do so, do we also have a right to travel freely, uninfringed, unfettered, without the requirement of licensing, registration, titling, insurance, fees, dues, liabilities, penalties? If he knows what he's talking about, he better say yeah. If he says no, I urge you to have him removed from driver's education course as the instructor. Mr. Instructor, I read in Title 26 of the United States Code, Section 7701, subsection H, where it clarifies that the motor vehicle with the registration and title, including the driver's license, completes a lease. When you sign that driver license and register that private automobile and get a certificate of title, it changes from a private automobile to a motor vehicle. And again, if you look in that section where it clarifies the motor vehicle thing, 26 U.S.C. 7701, subsection H, and you'll see it in one of my posts. I posted it. The motor vehicle is a lease. And it will tell you in there, Part D, one of the last parts in there, in regards to the motor vehicle lease, if lessee knows that the certification is false. And within that, between the top part and the bottom part, you'll see the section where it talks about the lease being used on the public roadways 50% or more of the time for commercial purposes. Now, if you know that part to be false, then you need to let them know that that's false and they cannot require you to have a license or register your vehicle because it's not a vehicle. It's an automobile. Definition is determined by use. A motor vehicle is used for commercial purposes. An automobile is used for private family uses. Period. So again, understand this stuff, people. And instead of sitting there because you can't figure it out, putting on my post that I'm posting bullshit, the fuck off my post. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about? You ain't got proof? You can't show your walk? The fuck off my post! Tired of all you idiots that think you that think you know shit. Eric K. Wang, ERICK-WANG. Eric K. Wang is a tax preparer who seems to think that tax code is positive law. Whereas if you look in the tax code, you will see that the tax code itself tells you that it only applies to the tax code and has no legal effect. Not only that, but it's also been determined that the 16th Amendment was never properly ratified. Period. If you learn this stuff and learn how to put it together, you learn how to tell them fuck you right to their face. When you walk into court trying to help a friend and he wants to look at you and say, I'll charge you with practicing law without a license. Really? Tell you what. I'll just subpoena the state licensing commissioner, put him on the stand there to verify that there is no such thing, and I'll even let you pick which state. Tell you what, I'll take it a step further. I'll let you pull one from every state. Because no insurance commissioner will get on the stand and say that that there is any such thing as a license to practice law, because they can't prove it. There's no such fucking thing. So when it comes down to the definitions, yes, they are. They are very pertinent. For clarification, what do you mean by license to practice law? Is that something that the license commissioner from the state will provide? Or is that something that's a little black card known as a bar card and not actually a license? Are you being ambiguous here? Are you trying to give false and misleading information? So again, you people that want to come onto my posts and rebut things that I say, sorry, I stand to what I state. So when I state something like you don't put motions to a court, I mean it. I mean it. A motion is for consenting parties to move the court in their direction. An affidavit is part of a private administrative process. Okay? That private administrative process is done through special appearance and not a general appearance. When you make a general appearance, you are consigning to the court's jurisdiction and therefore become party to the motions back and forth. So again, I state, man does not submit motions. Only a person submits a motion through an authorized representative that is registered to do business as that person. That is a motion. So again, when you want to come on my posts or try to rebut my comments without any factual basis that you nor any judge, lawyer, attorney general, president, I don't give a fuck who you are. Your status has nothing to do with truth. Period. And your status on my post has nothing to do with belief. It better have to do with facts. Because if you want to sit there and post your beliefs on my posts as if though that's rebutting something, I'm going to tear you open like a can of worms. And I'm going to feed you to the fish. So when we talk about what we're doing in life and how we're resolving our issues, and everybody's concerned about the UC and the DBA and authenticating the birth certificate or the COLB, Certificate of Live Birth, entering this document, entering that document. You don't need to do any of it. You don't have to do any of it. The best thing in my suggestion is to educate yourself as fully as possible so that you know it. So that when you walk into court and some dumbass clown in a black robe that thinks he has this almighty power to accuse you of practicing law without a license, let me see the contract. Let me see the crime. Where is it a crime that I've injured somebody by putting forth facts that I know, that you call practicing law? Definitions are very much and very, very important in everything we do in life. And you have to learn your definition, the truth of who you are and how you use it. So again, when it comes to my transcript, right now I'm using it for my own personal education and reviewing it as much as I dare. I review it all the time. I go through it and I look at it and I wonder, well, how come I didn't catch that there? And it's like I was talking about this idiot Chase wants to sit there and say, well, he knew about, he's familiar with sovereign citizen. And then he says he doesn't know anything about sovereign citizen. And then he says he's trained on sovereign citizen. All you got to do is expose the truth. Because they don't know what it is. You think 80,000 plus codes, statutes, rules, regulations, acts, edicts, ordinances, proclamations, declarations, this and that, you think they know them all? The basic simple thing is the now time. Right now. Who am I? Who are you? What is the truth? Am I actually driving? Well, yeah, you're in the car. How can you be driving if you're in a car? Well, I'm in a motor vehicle. Oh, so you do admit there's a difference between a car and a motor vehicle. Whoa. Well, you got a license to drive. But do you know what driving means? See, they're incompetent to answer this stuff on the stand. I wish I took the time to look through here, but the thing about the sovereign citizen was a good one, but the best one was where the guy that's been on the force for 40 years, and I think there was 5 officers that got on the stand, and 4 of them, when I questioned about their inventory, they call it an inventory here now, not a search, but an inventory, okay? And so again, we're going to get into the definition of inventory as opposed to search. Now, an inventory is a list of items that one is to search for prior to a search, or a list of items made after somebody has searched, or a list of items being looked for, or a list of items that have been found. So when you work in a restaurant and you do an inventory, you're going through all the items that you've got, and you're making a list of the things that you want found. Well, there's no carrots. I need to find some carrots. Oh, there's no cabbage. I need to find some cabbage. Oh, there's no shrimp. I need to find some shrimp. Oh, hell, there's all kinds of chicken. We better cross off chicken on this inventory list. That's an inventory. And so for the first four officers refused to admit that they were conducting a search. But the fifth officer, the one that's been on the force the longest, admitted, because he's obviously a good man at heart. And this is one of the reasons, after reviewing my case and going through this and getting over all the anger and the hatred, I realized these guys are caught up in the cognitive dissonance just as much as we are. They're being used just as much as we are. So, and it's not that I have any kind of real actual love for them, but I have a different respect for the position that they're in today. I have a different respect for myself and the position that I'm in today. They're both going up. And so my disrespect is towards the fiction. And that's what we've got to counter. And that is countered through the definitions which bring forward the truth. So understand this stuff, people. You really need to learn what you're speaking about. Because when you're born and that hospital statement of live birth says informant, they're entering you into Babylon. They're entering you in as a sinner right from the start by stating that a crime has been committed by you being born. Simple as that. So again, when it comes to walking the talk, anybody wants to question it, come live with me for a while. I don't have a car. I don't have a motor vehicle. Someday I might have again. But right now I'm doing barter and trade. And believe you me, starting right from scratch, from the day I got arrested and lost my source of prosperity, I went and shut my bank account down and everything. And I've done nothing but barter and trade since. Going on 3 years now. You want to accuse me of being bullshit? Come live with me for a while. See if you can handle the bullshit. Because I do without a lot of things. My computer is sitting in a damn storage unit out in New Hampshire because I didn't depend upon a monetary system to bring it back with me. I ended up having to scoot and hitched it. And so there is all kinds of things I couldn't bring with me. Hopefully someday I'll get it back, but if not, I've lost a lot of information. So in the meantime, I'm stuck with working with this little phone. This little phone in the local library when I can make it down there. Inclement weather as we have, it's kind of hard to get there on foot. It's pretty damn cold, it's a long way. And even on bike, I have a hard time sometimes with the emphysema COPD. But I still get there as much as I can. Research is very important to me because that's how I live my life now. That's how I make a lot of my barters and trades, is trading information and trading my services. Got one right now I'm working on. I got a dog needs groomed, but I don't have any money, so I'm glad to do some babysitting or clean her shop or whatever. And she says she's willing to do something, so let's get my dog groomed and we'll figure something out. It's barter and trade. It's not contract. There's no written agreement. It's right here. My word is my bond. And it comes from Him. My word, my definition, is my bond. It comes from Him, not you. Learn this stuff and understand who you are. and how they have no authority over you. Because, like I said, and I think I mentioned this in one of my other videos too, here recently, I had an altercation, not an altercation, a problem with local postmaster who thinks because he's the postmaster, he's the master. I had to remind him, no, you're not the postmaster, you're the public servant postmaster. He didn't like that. And his whiny ass, little fucking punk ass, pussy motherfucking ass called the police. Oh, really? For what? Because I told you you're the fucking public servant? What a fucking pussy! So anyway, when I walk outside, here comes this nice policy enforcer wanting to know who I am. Where's your ID? I don't have an ID. Am I required to have an ID? I don't know one law in the entire world, let alone America, let alone the state of Iowa, let alone the county of Black Hawk, let alone Waterloo, that says I'm required to have any kind of fucking ID. Merely having an ID, identity for a person, would mean that, wouldn't you have to have a prerequisite of the DBA? So when they're issuing these state IDs, shouldn't they also be informing you something that isn't disclosed? Oh, well, you need to have a DBA registered in that name for that license in order to perform commerce on the public roadways. See, when you learn this stuff, you learn how to figure out their fraud and put it right in their face and tell them to fuck off. So anyway, when he asked me for my ID, I'm sorry, I don't have one. Well, what's your name? Well, I'm sorry, but I don't have a name either. But people can call me Keith all my life. Well, what's your last name, Keith? I just told you I don't have a last name. I don't have a name. But I hail from the family Little. What's your birth date, Keith? Sorry, I don't have a birth date. I wasn't birthed, I was born. And I hear I was born on August 20th, 1966. Now, he can enter that information all he wants, but if he enters it in as a first name and a last name, he's committing fraud. If he enters it in as a birth date, he's committing fraud. I didn't give him a birth date. I didn't give him a last name. I didn't give him a first name. So anyway, when he runs the information, and like I said, I've got 11 citations sitting out there that I assigned all UCC 1-308 and then never showed up in court. They adjudicated them, found me guilty, and then assessed fines. Now, I've never showed up in court for those charges, yet they know who I am. These charges are anywhere from 3 to 6 years old, and I've been in and out of their courts for many other reasons. Yet there's no enforcement. And so when this officer runs my name and comes back, and those are still on the record, you can look them up. And there's nothing comes back except no warrants, no detaining, nothing. Just a protection order from the local DA. Now, mind you, this case was over 2 years ago. And they reinforced that protection order. Makes you think. Are you on the right track? Fuck yeah, you are. One of the very few on the right track. You want to listen to all these gurus. Don't sit there and say you follow me or that I'm some kind of master or I'm some kind of guru. I'm not. I'm doing what I'm doing and that's it. I'm finding the facts and I'm putting them out there. If you want them, you can have them. You don't want to believe them? That's fine. Don't. But don't come onto my post and say that I'm full of crap. I'm not. I live my life the way I live my life because I live in truth. So when that nice policy officer asked me for a last name or a name or an ID, I can't tell him. I can't give him any of that. I don't have it. I'm not registered to do business as. And what people call me is not my name. Understand this stuff, people. When you see that name in all caps, that's a title. Look up your grammar. Go back to high school and learn literature again. Any literature major will tell you that's a title. That can't be representative of a living entity, a living being. It's a title of a fiction. It's a title of a story. It's a title of a book. Though the story may be true, the title itself is still a title. So again, I urge people to go back and learn your grammar, your word mark, letter marks, terms and conditions, grammar, and how to use it. Because when you come onto my post and tell me I'm full of crap, you're going to end up looking like a fool. Because I'm not going to block people anymore. I'm going to state my comments and I'm going to let everybody else eat you up. I want everybody to do their own research on what I've already researched. What I've already searched, and I've searched again and again. Again, like I said, this is my transcripts, and you see, I go through and I make notes. I read it, and I make my notes. All right. And Mr. Little, you're aware of what the state's plea offer was to get this case settled? That's fraud. To make a plea offer, they charged you with one thing. And now they're offering to change it. Why are they doing that? Because it's fraud. Look up your 4th and 6th Amendments. Mr. Little's choice to proceed without counsel. I never proceeded without counsel. I proceeded without a lawyer. I proceeded without an attorney. But I had plenty of counsel. Thanks to you people. Representing yourself, is that correct? And you'll notice I said correct. That was back before I knew I was supposed to be presenting myself rather than representing myself. Because you can't represent yourself unless you've already been there and then went back to present yourself again. But in this case, they're talking about representing the person. Which, by the way, if you look at that, let me see here. See if I can get this on here. There it is. Defendant. Keith Orland Little in all caps. So, again, like I said earlier, these people ever want to come against me again or try to rebut a claim if I ever put a claim in, then they're in serious trouble. Yes, Holly, I'm glad you're catching on to that. Fend for yourself. You don't defend, because if you defend, then you defended yourself. You have no ability to fend for yourself. So again, yeah, learn the words. Learn the words. So one last time, people, like I said, I take my notes, I do my research, I know what I know, and I walk my talk. You want to come on to my posts and try to rebut anything, then you better come with truth, because I'm going to research it. I'm going to research everything I can think of. And for you out there that don't want to do some real serious research, check out epistemology. That's one of my favorites because I don't like to stick to just one subject. I don't like to stick to just law. I study a lot of things. Epistemology, epistemology. Epistemology. The study of knowledge. Period. Anyway, I didn't want this to be too long, so I'm going to cut it off here. Let everybody know I love you. If it weren't for you guys, I wouldn't be here doing this. God bless you all. Have a great night.